Serenity now. Serenity now. It's Loudwire. I like Loudwire. I'll play nice.
This is f***ing bullshit.
I'm done with you people.
What the f***? Where's my tour manager? I specifically requested the Pokemon kit.
F***ing Loudwire. Jesus. Oh, God. Here we go again.
Hello Kitties for amateurs. It looks like they actually got me my Pokemon kit. This is great. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Oh, first with the Hello Kitty, then the Pokemon.
Obviously the guy did not get the rider. It's ridiculous. And a single pedal. I'm supposed to be doing Slayer tunes on this thing, and how am I supposed to do this with a single pedal?
Just when I thought I was done, they pulled me back in.
But I'm an artist, I'm a professional, I'll rise above. I'll rise above.
I'll rise above. I had three big heroes. It was, first it was Ringo Starr, then it was Keith Moon, and then I discovered John Bonham. But it was Bonzo that had all these classic drum intros. In fact, you know a bunch of them, but there's such a long list of them. So it was, let's see, it was like, well, you had, it's the very first thing you heard was Good Times, Bad Times.
Cowbells down here.
So that was the very first drum thing you heard from the very first Zeppelin album, but then the list goes on and on and on. You had rock and roll. You had the crunge. Which is also De La Soul, 3 is a magic number.
Yeah, when the levee breaks. Give that man a fish.
Speaking of rappers sampling John Bonham, the very opening to the first Beastie Boys album starts with John Bonham's drums. It's, of course, When the Levee Breaks, but it starts with a... Then came the game changer for me. And I discovered Rush and Neil Peart. All of my teenage years, Neil and Rush that was it. I lived, breathed, and slept and shat Neil and Rush. And this was the one. Believe it or not, a lot of people think I discovered Rush a lot earlier. I didn't. I discovered them with moving pictures and went backward. The main reason I never gave Rush the time of day was I would hear Geddy's voice on the radio, and I just wrote them off as some kind of like band like Supertramp or Styx, just these high vocals, but I never realized the musicianship and the drumming. And then somebody played me YYZ without the, I don't want to use the word distraction, but it didn't have Geddy's vocals to latch onto, and it forced me to listen to the drums, bass, and guitar. And when I heard YYZ, I was like, holy shit, these guys can play. Then I discovered more progressive music, and Neil Peart was my guy. I mean, he was my hero. Through all my teenage years, I became the biggest Rush fanatic, learning all of Neil's parts. And like John Bonham, Neil had all these legendary drum parts. Of course, you know this one. Because I love him so, I'm going to do some Neil tributes. We're going to start, of course, with YYZ. Get up. How can I work with this shit? This should be over here. This is over there. How's a guy supposed to work with this? Can't even freaking sit on this throne. I'm done with you people. Of course, the big fill at the beginning of the 2112 Temples of Syrinx is a classic.
How about 2112? Let's get right into the song. I see a bumblefoot hiding in the wings. I know he'll be able to get every one of these. So we're going to do Rush, Name That Tune. And if you know what it is, just yell out in the wings. You could just yell. So let's start. We're going to start easy, okay?
Limelight.
All right, here we go. Name that tune. You can't just play it on guitar. You got to name the song. That's it's called Name That Tune. It's not play it on guitar.
I'm naming it with my guitar.
You got to name it. He's been stumped. Cygnus X1. You got to work quicker.
I'm playing it.
Bumblefoot, you got to yell Cygnus X1. No. I stumped him. So.
I played it. It's the same thing.
I'm not asking you to play it. It's called Name That Tune, not play that tune.
I want to play.
No, you name that tune or you don't play. Out. Remove Mr. Foot from the room. Neil would be really upset about this, you know. The intro to Lakeside Park. I'll give you one more chance. Okay. This is a tough one, too. I got you, Bumble. I got you. You don't know this. What kind of Rush fan are you, Bumblefoot?
I know it, but I'm not going to play it nor name it.
Lakeside Park, wheels in the breeze. Okay, Lakeside Park. One last Name That Tune. I'm going to give Bumblefoot one last chance. I know you know this one because we jammed it a few days ago. So you name that Rush tune. Woo!
Around 1983 came this one, and it was the new one from Iron Maiden. They switched drummers, and they got Nico McBrain, and it's like, okay, the fourth album comes out, you drop the needle on this album, Peace of Mind, and the first thing you hear is the opening to Where Eagles Dare and Nico's drums, and it was like, oh shit, here we go. My school band was on a class trip to Montreal, Canada, the day that this came out. And I remember walking past a record store and seeing this in the window, so I bought it on cassette. I bought this on cassette first so I could listen to it on that class trip I was on, and then as soon as I got home, I bought the vinyl.
Iron Maiden's drummers, Clive Burr and Nico McBrain, also were drummers that had classic drum intros. Of course, some of the famous Clive Burr ones. All right, I'll give you another easy one. You ready? Hey, Run to the Hills. Come on, that was easy. And then, of course, you have The Prisoner. Some really cool stuff on the earlier albums. Iron Maiden is another band that is one of my all-time favorites and one of my biggest influences. When Dream Theater formed in '85, our kind of like mission statement was that we wanted to be the ultimate cross between Rush and Iron Maiden. Those were the two bands we kind of wanted to be like, you know, the middle ground of. And yeah, we've been fortunate enough to have toured with Iron Maiden many times through the years and become friends with many of the guys. You know, I'm very good friends with Nico. And yeah, so the news of Bruce is so sad. You know, this is what happens the longer heavy metal's around. You know, we're all getting older, you know, and you see, you know, like Ronnie James Dio battling it, and Vivian Campbell, and Tony Iommi, and now Bruce, you know, Eddie Van Halen. It's like, you know, this is the reality of time, you know, as we all get older, and, you know, everybody's, you know, has to deal with life and health and things like that. But, you know, Bruce is, my God, if there's a person on earth that is, you know, strong-minded and willed, I mean, the fact that he's just, you know, he's such a get-up-and-go kind of guy, you know, if anybody's going to kick its ass, it would be him.
This was the one that kind of shifted my listening altogether, and it was this one. It was Metallica's debut, Kill 'Em All. You had AC/DC, Sabbath, Priest. They were all heavy, but when this came out, it was, you had never heard anything this raw and crunchy and fast. I heard the Four Horsemen and Seek and Destroy and No Remorse and Hit the Lights, Whiplash, you know, Metal Militia. Every song on here was just like, holy shit, you had never heard anything this fast, this raw, this energetic. You know, the bass, hearing Cliff Burton's bass, you had never heard a lead bass played like that. I mean, you had Geezer Butler and you had Lemmy up to that point, but Cliff was taking it to another level. You heard that bass solo in this album. It was like, what the fuck is that? A friend of mine was a disc jockey at his college radio station, and I guess Metal Force sent him this as a promo, and he hated it. He couldn't wrap his head around it. So he was like, hey man, he traded me this. And I heard this and I was like, holy shit, this is a game changer. And that was my introduction to what became thrash. Around the early to mid 80s, when the whole thrash scene was coming out, I got really into all those early Metallica albums, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, Overkill, Flotsam and Jetsam, Exodus. That whole scene was a huge, huge influence on me. And there were a lot of great drummers that had some incredible drum parts. Of course, let's see, we could do Whiplash, like. How about a little Metallica for you? You know, I advanced the double pedal. Doesn't Hello Kitty make the double pedal? This is fucking bullshit. SOD's Speak English or Die, Stormtroopers of Death. It had Scott Ian and Charlie Benante, who I already knew from Anthrax, and Danny Lilker, who I knew from the first Anthrax album, as well as Nuclear Assault. And then Billy Milano, who I didn't know at the time, but got introduced from this album. Being a fan of thrash and being a fan of New York hardcore, this was the perfect crossover album. You had songs that were 40 seconds long, 20 seconds long, 5 seconds long. You know, the ballad of Jimi Hendrix is 4 seconds long. Diamonds and Rust, extended version, 2 seconds long. And the most radical lyrics ever. I mean, they never would be able to make this record today. This would have been, SOD would have been canceled immediately. But you know, you listen to these lyrics like Kill Yourself and Speak English or Die, Premenstrual Princess Blues, you know, Fuck the Middle East. You know, these songs could never be written today, but they're still here if you have the balls to listen to this album. Charlie Benante was a huge influence. I was a big, big SOD fan. I mean, Speak English or Die was like the first time you ever heard blast beats, and that album was a huge influence. But even from the very, very first Fistful of Metal album, let's see if you can name this one. Got it? Indians by Anthrax. Come on, Charlie Benante. Oh, God. That was as easy as it gets. I can't talk about the thrash era of the mid-'80s without talking about this one. Slayer's masterpiece, Rain in Blood. Hell Awaits had the tunes, but it still didn't have the production. Finally, when they teamed up with Rick Rubin and made Rain and Blood, it was like the production you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear Dave Lombardo's drums sound like this, and Carrie and Jeff's guitars sound like this. Rick Rubin at the time was working with the Beastie Boys and Run DMC, so he already had the hip hop cred, and then this gave him the metal cred. You don't get a more classic, perfect thrash album than this one.
How about a little Slayer for you? Anybody? Oh, come on. I think that's criminally insane, yeah? And then, of course, you have Dave Lombardo. Rain and Blood. Oh yeah, this is gonna work. I'm gonna make this work. You know, Dave Lombardo wouldn't be playing this shit. And then, of course, the middle of Rain and Blood was legendary. In fact, I got to do a version of Rain and Blood with Metal Masters, and it was 3 drummers, myself, Charlie Benante, and Dave Lombardo. We also had Kerry King and Phil Anselmo and Frank Bello and Dave Ellefson. It was awesome. But we did Angel of Death, and when it got to that classic double bass thing that I'm gonna play for in a second, we actually did it with all 3 of us. Like first Dave went, and he kept going, then Charlie went, he kept going, then I came in, and we had all 3 of us doing this at the same time. I right now am going to attempt the impossible, okay? Right here on Loudwire. I am going to play the world famous Dave Lombardo drum break in the middle of Angel of Death, okay? Wait. That's it. I quit.
It says your father suggested the name of Dream Theater, which was the name of a small theater he ran in Monterey, California.
Well, fact that he was the one that suggested the name, but fiction that he ran it.
He didn't run it.
He didn't run it. No, it was a movie theater called the Dream Theater, and they would show all like midnight movies. I used to go see Rocky Horror there,
Nice.
and Rock and Roll High School, and
very good.
Clockwork Orange. You know, it was all the midnight movies, and I used to go there every weekend. And it was this really cool movie theater, and when we were fishing for names, my dad, I remember getting home and there was a message on my answering machine, like, what do you think about the name Dream Theater? And I didn't even like give it a second thought. I was like, nah, I don't like that. I don't like that. And then, you know, a couple days later when the band was just struggling to come up with a name, I was like, you know, my dad left this message on my machine. What do you think of this? Everybody liked it, so we went with it.
I saw this movie, Rock and Roll High School, in the theater around 1980, and I would sneak in a tape recorder and tape the movie soundtrack, you know, whether it be Rock and Roll High School, or Clockwork Orange, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I would tape record these movies and then take them home and listen to them. So I used to listen not only to this album, but the actual cassette tape of the movie. Ramones would have to be the biggest thing I was listening to around 1980 when I was turning 13. My teenage years, this is what I was listening to.
Next time I come back, I want a real fucking drum set.
Enough of this f***ing bullshit.